What is up, my Lorcana Goons, and welcome back to the Lorcana Goons channel. My name is Zach, and today I have with me Shane, who is a member of our competitive Lorcana Goons team. Shane, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Happy to be here, Zach.
I'm happy you're here with me too, and this is our weekly market watch videos where we go over meta trends, card prices, and news of the game. And what I have in front of me right now is actually a test print of what is called Disney Famous, what is now Lorcana. So this is like an interesting niche to the game that I wanted to go over. These cards are essentially test prints before Lorcana was essentially what it is now, and this is what is the Mickey. This is the 8-drop evasive, but they increased its stats. Yeah, Shane, have you seen any of these cards in person? I'm still waiting to find one.
I have not seen any in person. Obviously, it's unclear how many are out there in the public. If I came across one, I'd certainly potentially be interested, because this is a piece of history right here. I mean, there's not going to be a whole lot of these.
No, I don't think so either.
And Mickey used to be a big girl. I mean, Jasmine was. Unfortunately, we don't see a lot of play for the Mickey Brave Little Tailor, but it's interesting just historically to see that it started out as Jasmine card.
Right. This is a big piece of history. I like that it's backing is almost similar to what we have now, just with like the little flickers and that little like design. But this is really cool, honestly. And I wanted to bring it up today because I thought it was really interesting. And yeah, let me know in the comments down below, guys, if you are in the market for anything like this, or if you guys have one. I want to know what the card pool exists for Disney Famous. But on some other news right now, we have the Reign of Jafar pre-orders going a little bit more than what they've been selling before. I know we saw earlier that they were around 115, maybe even as low as 110, but the prices have spiked a little bit up to $123 right now. And the demand for this game is in an interesting place. I know that some cards are pretty cheap. Lorcana is on the low, and there might be a buyer's market. So this is good to see that some product is still anticipated, and we're pretty much waiting for. A lot of the cards in this set are not overpowered per se. There's a few that I would question that, but overall this set is going to be very interesting for the way the meta is going to shape up, and this is going to be the Worlds format, so this is what the World competitors are going to be playing with. But guys, as we always say on our channel, do not buy the pre-orders for singles. That is right, these are overpriced. Shane, have you ever picked up a TCG pre-sale card?
I don't know that I've ever pre-ordered a card lifetime. However, there has been a couple times in history where I've seen a card that I thought was perhaps too cheap. That's not going to happen most of the time, but one thing that comes to mind, I believe it was set 2 when the 1-drop Cinderella came out. That was selling, maybe not pre-order, but at release for like $1 each. And within a couple weeks they were like $9. So occasionally you can catch a card on the down around the time of release, but more likely than not you're going to end up paying more if you are pre-ordering a card.
Right. There's so many cards that I think are a little bit too expensive right now, like this lady that does let you play a 2-cost character for free when you play her. This is not necessarily worth $12 in my opinion.
Rares can only be so expensive consistently in this game. We get 2 rares per pack, sometimes even 3 with the foils included. So I would not expect a card like this to be $12 long term, certainly.
Definitely not. This other lady too, while is a powerful card, is not going to be around $8. I can see somewhere of a settle of like $4, maybe even $5. This is going to be an auto 4 of in the Turner Dog deck, of course, and I also think they've revealed an enchanted right now for it, so we have an enchanted version of this card, and I believe cold foils aren't going to be too expensive now with this enchanted version being the highest rarity. But another card that I actually think is going to not be an expensive card like this is Into the Unknown. This is again Blurple's Let It Go. It's a little bit cheaper and a little bit more specific in how you can resolve it, but again, a powerful card. And Shane, if that video you and I made, I would wish that this card would have been in the card pool per se. This is a very strong card for Blurple. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, I absolutely agree. It's a strong card. However, something that comes to mind for me when thinking about that strategy is you already had access to Let It Go, right? And there's going to be scenarios where this isn't going to line up exactly well because you want to be able to take care of a character that isn't exerted. So, do you play both cards? You're still going to play Hades potentially. But when you think long term, there's so many things that could change once set 9 comes out and once rotation hits. Maybe you no longer have access to something like Let It Go. So this would certainly be a staple in that scenario in Blurple strategies. But $15 though? Yeah, I don't think so.
Not happening for $15. So yeah, guys, do not buy the pre-orders. Do not buy singles from TCG Player. Just wait till the moment's right. There's always a sweet spot for some cards. I know we've talked about other cards in previous market watches right before set releases, and there are some cards that are going for some deals early on. So the cards that are going for some deals right now, I believe this Tinkerbell has been going up. So if you've picked these up for around $230 or $240, you're in the money right now. These are around $280 to $290 for the lowest listings, and we know that this card is coming back into the core constructed rotation. It will be in Fabled Set 9, and this is something that's really good to see, that the cards that are going to still be played are going to have more value, and we don't know all of the cards that will be reprinted at the moment. So this is something that I very much believe in. This is a very strong card too, and depending on the way that the meta will shape up and what card pool we'll have access to, this is something that I think could react well. And another reaction that I want to go over today is actually about this Royal Tantrum Enchanted. Now, we saw that the Lumiere, the Dual Link Ruby Sapphire character that first was revealed as an evasive ward card, meaning that you couldn't choose it for anything except for challenges, and it can only be challenged with evasive characters. I felt that this card was going to be very overpowered. Correction on it was that it didn't have ward. So when it first was revealed, we had about maybe 12 to 16 hours of the timeline before we knew about its error. And in that timeline, this card was bought out. We saw it go from $30 to $130. I think it sold for as high. It didn't sell for that high, but it did sell for as high as $83 and $90. So a lot of people were dumping this card, I think, when the announcement first came out, and they wanted to kind of get in while the iron was hot. But now that that card has been fixed, I'm curious to see if people are going to have their own sort of royal tantrum. What do you think about that, Shane?
Well, yeah, you mentioned upwards of $90 for that high point, but we're still seeing that's what's available right now. So at least these sellers aren't willing to lower the price in present day. But yeah, I don't know that I see it. It could be a fun kind of one-turn kill, but this is a combination that already has things like Tamatoa and Lucky Dime and things of that nature. So Royal Tantrum being uninkable too. A lot has to go right for that to work out. I don't see it, but maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, and again, that was a character that during, while in play, anytime an item of yours is banished, you would gain a lore. So yeah, that's why people were a little worried about it, because it was going to be hard to interact with. If you would re-ready it after requests, then you really can't do anything about it. So yeah, overall, we'll have to see how it goes. Another card that I actually noticed was going up, and I don't see any play as well, is this Donald Duck Flustered Sorcerer. What is going on here? Because right now, I know that this card has always been around like $100 or so, but we're seeing it right now available at $135 by World's Class Singles, and the sales on it are concurrent to what it's being listed for. So people are paying as much as that price. So this is more of a collectible card. I don't think this card's going to see any competitive play, but who's to know? Because we might be at a point where like the extra 5 lore might be a little bit of a stretch for some decks, and you could get benefit from having that longevity in the game. game. But the card that is going up, and we did talk about down in New Orleans being revealed, is Prince Naveen. Now, Prince Naveen has started to see like some interesting price points. We no longer see consistent prices along the board until you hit around $7 to $8. That's when you have more sellers selling multiple copies, not just one. And this is again a powerful card because you're playing a 6-cost song for free. I know that there is some other songs that were revealed that this card can also play. Maybe they're pushing like an Amber Sapphire strategy. Do you have any thoughts about this, Shane?
Well, I think once we all got the official news of rotation, I think every card sets 5 through 7 deserve another look. Now, in Naveen's case, Naveen's already seen plenty of play, right? But we have to look into that future state of what it could pair with. And you do see a card like Down in New Orleans. I'm not super high on that card, or at least not as high on the card as I've seen some other folks. Because if you think about it, yes, Naveen and Down. If you play Naveen into Down in New Orleans, and we're talking a color combination that would also have access to ramp, so you're potentially doing that on turn 3. That's a very powerful play. But the issue that I see, and maybe the strong deck builders can figure this out, is there's an imbalance. Because if you play Naveen, you want a lot of songs. If you play Down in New Orleans, you want a lot of characters and locations and things of that nature that cost around that 6-cost mark, because you want to get full value. So there's some push and pull. There's some really smart people that may be able to figure it out. We'll have to wait and see. But I think the trend you see here, and I don't know if this has anything to do with the Donald Enchanted, but we're seeing sets 5 especially trending upwards. And I think that's to be expected.
Yes, and I do want to point out that even though that there's a enchanted version of this card, we're seeing cold foils even get closer to the $10 mark, which is still a good point to make, because I like cold foil versions of cards. I don't necessarily like to play with enchanted versions, so I like that these are cheaper than like some other cards like Maui Shark, for example, which doesn't have it enchanted, and the foils almost doubled in price at one point. But yes, you're right, Shane. Set 5 and the cards from sets 5 through 7 are being looked at. Let's take a look at this Elsa from the fifth Spirit from set 5. This is a very, very good card. It's played in a lot of Amethyst strategies, Amethyst Steel, Ruby Amethyst, Blurple, and it's upwards of $6, even $7 from Pro Play Games, who has 13 copies for you. And I do want to go over the cold foils that do come out of a starter deck. So the single player decks from Shimmering Skies include a copy of this card, cold foil, and it's about $7 as well. So you're paying about $1 more to get your cold foil versions, which isn't bad. I would recommend picking those up prior to picking up non-foils. But this is, again, just a very strong card. We're seeing a lot of Elsa on a support too coming out, and I think that's going to be the trend too going forward with more of the Blurple cards. So this card right now is also a very, very good card to look at. Set 5 Mufasa, ruler of Pride Rock. I was talked about, you talked about this card with me, Shane, and I gotta ask you, what are your thoughts? Do you think that this card's going to see a lot of play? Do you like some of the cards that were revealed in Reign of Jafar to make this card a little bit more impactful?
This is one of those cards that once again, I think you're looking at potentially in a post-rotation world. Anybody who's played with or against this card previously knows that if you go through a turn cycle and you get to quest with this, you're going to win the game more often than not. It's just one of the scariest characters to be opposing on the opposite side of the field. And I just see a lot of potential in this card. If you think of Sapphire strategies now, they're topping out with things like the 8-drop Tamatoa. Well, maybe that's not going to be around in the future. So you have to start considering things like this. Also, Sapphire Emerald has gotten some support in this upcoming set, and that's a deck that's going to ramp very aggressively, and this is a card that could come into play there as well.
Yeah, this is a card that I've seen people combo out with You Came Back, but we have a Raya 6 cost that's inkable that allows you to re-ready characters too. So you're right. This with a paired with an Emerald strategy could see a lot of playability. Could be, Lorcana's first combo deck, which I'm excited for. And yeah, if you like cards like this, if you guys have any comments, leave them down below of what cards you think are some things to look up and pick up. This is a card that I hope can see a lot of play. Being able to interact with your Inkwell too is very niche, and this color pair of Emerald Sapphire seems to be the only color pair that can do it. Sapphire cards that are also seeing a little bit of a trend upward is this Tamatoa Happy as a Clam. I like that this card is still stable around $40 because it gives me a lot of confidence that the cards coming into the competitive constructed rotation will be of better value, more of a long-term pickup for sure. But if you need these cards to play in any tournaments prior to the Fabled release, then you will need to get cards set 1 through 4. And I think it's safe to assume a lot of the playables will be coming back. I wish I had any of this, knowledge ahead of time, but prior to any of that, it's more for the fact that like I want to be able to test new decks for the next upcoming DLC. That's what we're all waiting for. But yeah, this is a very solid card. We're looking at non-foils at around $40. Vencorp's got the cheapest copy at $39.99, as well as Lorcana. So yeah, we like that card is still upwards of $40, and cold foil copies are only $45. It's not too much more to get a cold foil. I think that's a good move. What do you think, Shane? Do you have any cold foil Tamatoas?
I do. I'm actually looking for a fourth one right now. I got 3 of the 4, but yeah, there used to be a bigger gap between the regular versions and the foil versions. So that's actually news to me that gap has closed. But I'll definitely have to pick up that fourth one. The only thing I'll say about this is, it being a set 7 card, the foils did change. I actually just made the finals of a set championships playing Ruby Sapphire items, and the judge did kindly point out that the foils were of a very minor concern, but concern nonetheless, whereas the set 1 through 6 foils were no issue at all. So that does sting a little bit if they're going to continue with this current foil treatment, that in competitive play you do have to be careful. We've seen this in other games. If foils are warping in any capacity, that could be considered a marked card. So just be very careful with that sort of thing.
Yes, and something about temperature and something about like how you store your cards has like an impact on that. There's a lot of other things that gonna go on to why that happens. So just keep in mind that if you are more of an experienced, seasoned competitive player and you don't want to take any risks in that place of getting a judge call, getting a deck check, definitely consider changing those cards for that tournament. Look at this crab, though. This crab has gone down in price. Oh my gosh, how would the mighty have fallen. This card used to be $7, $8 cleanly, and we're seeing it barely hit $2 right now because there is still $1.31 shipping, but it's not too many copies that you can find available for that price if you're buying multiple. So this is an interesting thing to see, and honestly, again, this is where the markets are going. A lot of cards are going down if they're not going to be reprinted, but we don't know if this card's coming back in the core constructed format.
Yeah, I would almost say it's unlikely. I mean, we don't know for certain. However, I've seen this overreaction for a number of cards. Overreaction, in my opinion. Tamatoa is so shiny, one of the most powerful cards in the game, and especially from people coming from games that don't have rotation, I don't think they fully understand that these cards will maintain value long term, as long as the Infinity format is supported, particularly at a competitive level. I expect that to happen. Some other people seem to not expect that to happen, but I would be hanging on to these. Certainly, I would not be selling at this price. And if you don't already own a lot of these first chapter and set 1 through 4 cards that are dipping right now, personally, I would try to take advantage of that.
The Iago Giant Spectral Parrot is another card that comes out of a single player deck, and this is a cold foil version that goes around $7 to $8. So it's going to be Jafar's season next set, and this is an illusion character. So this will see a lot more play alongside more illusion characters that we saw get revealed from the Reign of Jafar. And I like this card a lot. I firmly believe evasive is an overpowered strategy. I'm not used to things like that in other card games I've played. So overall, this is a very, very good card in this format. And I think for the next format, we'll see a lot more play. Another card that I think we'll see a little bit more play with more of the reveals that we got is this Giant Robot Baymax, another giant card that's going for around $2 to $3, and this is a very interesting card. Again, it's one of the only universal shifts, so we have Morph where you can shift anything on top of it, and when we have this card where you can shift on top of anything. So they're starting to get interesting playabilities with the shift cards. I think this card's going to work well in a lot of blue-green strategies. If you guys have watched my video that I made yesterday, going over the top 10 decks, that is going to include a shift blue-green deck. So check that video out, as well as get your cards from any local game stores. And if you are in the Southern California area, I vend at the City of Industry Frankenstein's Collectible Show. Go ahead and visit me at booth M4. And Kevin, who is not with us, does vend at the shops of Carlbad and the Ninja Exchange. Check him out every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I'll be there today to help run his tournaments that will be going on, as well as help him buy and sell any of his inventory. So if you guys are in the area, definitely stop by. And yeah, this is a very good card, Shane. Even though I don't know if you've experimented with blue-green at all. What are your thoughts on universal shift? Do you want to see more of it in the future sets of the game?
I wouldn't be surprised if we see more of it, but it is such a unique ability that's not something that I would want them to slap on too many cards, because then you're just playing around too many things. But I kind of pegged this card when Arcade's Island came out as one of the more powerful, at least uncommons, right? The issue is, of course, it's a multicolor blue-green card, and we just haven't really seen a successful blue-green strategy in competitive play yet. But I do think that's coming long term, and this would potentially be part of it. I think Universal Shift, we've seen a lot of cards that care about Floodborns coming out in the near future, so this could certainly be part of that strategy.
Yeah, another thing to mention too is that this character is a 6-cost character, and that can sing Down in New Orleans in turn 3. So you have a little bit of synergy there, and there's a lot of 6-cost characters that you can play. You don't have to jam too many songs in that deck. You can just play a lot of bodies. So who knows? There's a lot of room to work on blue-green, and a lot of people are pretty big stands of it. I like blue-green myself. You and I have played a few games before, so I hope that this color pair gets a lot of support. But going over some in PSA news, we have our PSA segments now running on Fridays. As you guys know, our Monday market watches will no longer be happening. We have Friday market watches for the downtime that the game is in. I do want to mention that we didn't talk about many cards from sets 1 through 4. A lot of those cards are going on a downward trend right now. I am not too sure if there's a good reaction about rotation. Me personally, I do think it's healthy for the game. I do believe that they have to reprint a lot of these cards that we're currently playing with, so there's still a good incentive to hang on to your more playable cards rather than your more niche cards. And you can kind of notice what they're going to phase out, because they're printing a lot of similar character archetypes or similar stats with just different characters on it, and that's okay overall, because a lot of those cards are cheap anyway. And if the Infinity format does take off, I'm going to be happy that I have all my older cards for the future of the game. And if they ever bring any of these cards back, it's going to definitely impact the market prices. So just think about it like that. If there is a little bit of hesitation into why you should hold your cards, you did mention earlier, Shane, that the foiling's different, and we won't see them printed like they were in sets 1 through 6. So this is the PSA prices. I'm going over the Tinkerbell Enchanted. We're seeing sales of around $550 and some other sales that are a little less than that. They sell about maybe twice every, 3 to 4 times a month, and we still have about a couple weeks left here, and there's already 2 sales. Do you have any PSA Enchanteds or PSA cards for Disney Lorcana at all, Shane?
I don't have any PSA graded anything. I think I own one graded comic book that was a gift, and it's nice. But yeah, I prefer to have my things out of a sealed case, if you will. But nonetheless, I know there's a huge market for this sort of thing, and I know we brought up Tinkerbell previously, this Enchanted specifically. One thing I wonder that I haven't heard anyone bring up, we know that it's being reprinted in Fabled with the same artwork. Is there any chance they reprint the Enchanted as well? I would at least have to think about that if I was purchasing an Enchanted Tinkerbell today.
So I've seen some confirmation from official, Ravensburger employees that will not happen. Enchanteds
Okay,
are
that's
not
good to
going
know.
to be reprinted. Yes, yes. I mean, I don't believe the information that I read was incorrect. So have more faith in that place. I personally think that the Enchanteds are very safe. It would hurt the collector market if they ever reprinted things like that. I'm going to be very honest. That would not be a smart move by Ravensburger. So keep the Enchanteds at more as an exclusive, especially when they decide to stop printing sets. These are where the Enchanteds will have a lot more of a demand, and we'll see the prices change. But overall, this is good to see because it's around a little close to double the price. So it might be worth it to get your Enchanted cards graded. So we also have the Bell Strange but Special PSA 10s. This is this one's Japanese, so it's $189. I can't tell if this one's Japanese. I'm going to click on the image. So yeah, that's why this one's a little cheap too. But we're looking at English ones sell for about $520. This is really good to look at if you're looking at the price difference between a non-slabbed version and a PSA one, and this is more of a classic collectible. Bell only has 2 versions of an Enchanted artwork, and this is still something that if it does get rotated back, we'll see some play. So overall, this is going to be a nice card to pick up. But yeah, the Japanese prices are way cheaper than the English ones for PSAs from what I can tell. Going over the Elsa is the last PSA that we're going to go over. We have to talk about the Elsa. This is the first time I actually got to go over PSA cards, or at least the first time in a long time. So I like that this is about like 1,400 when I know raw copies are about like 900, maybe a little bit less than that. But this is still a very classic card. A lot of people have this, in their box tucked away. I have a few friends that are heavily invested in like PSA 10s of a lot of the chase characters, and every single one of them has an Elsa. And I've had people come up to me and want to sell an Elsa PSA 10, and it's very expensive. I don't like to make purchases like that. It's not the best investment for me right now. I'm not saying it would be a good buy, but I tend to keep more of my liquid available for playables and other stuff that moves a little bit quicker. But this is still a nice piece to have in anyone's collection. There was some tournaments for a PSA 10 Elsa. Shane, did you play in that one?
I did participate in that one. I certainly fell short, didn't perform too well, but I believe it was Christian Pelayo who took home that Elsa, and good for him. But yeah, this is a great card to have in your collection.
Yeah, so if you guys have any PSA cards as well as any Enchanteds that you guys have been collecting, let us know. If you're not in our Discord server, get in our Discord server with our link down below. We did hit our 1,000 member threshold. Kevin and I are planning to host a main stage event where we're gonna answer your questions live, so make sure you're in our Discord server so you can participate in that. And before I let you go, Shane, do you have any shout outs? Do you want to plug anything up of yours?
I've been broadcasting on the ICL lately, so definitely check out the ICL. You can also find me on Twitter at Shaner's Edict. Been dropping some thoughts on the new cards.
Yes, there is a lot of cards that I think are going down in price, so there might be some ways to capitalize on this. So think wisely, and again, do your own research. This has been Zach from Lorcana Goons, and we'll see you Goons next time.